They underestimate you, not because they've heard your thoughts, but because they haven't. They mistake your quiet for weakness. They think that because you're not the loudest in the room, you're not paying attention. They don't realize that while they're busy talking, you've been listening. And listening is where the power is born. People like you, the silent ones, get overlooked, ignored in conversations, talked over in meetings, forgotten when credit is handed out. And yet, history is full of moments where the quiet ones finally spoke, and the whole room shifted, because silence is not the absence of strength. Sometimes, it's the final preparation before a voice changes everything. Her name was Clara Hayes. If you'd met her in high school, you wouldn't have remembered her. She wasn't the homecoming queen. She wasn't the star athlete. She wasn't even the teacher's favorite. She was the girl at the edge of the cafeteria, earbuds in, a worn paperback in front of her. She spoke when spoken to, answered questions when asked, but otherwise, she lived in the quiet corners. It wasn't because she had nothing to say. It was because she'd learned early that some people don't listen to understand. They listen to reply. And Clara didn't want to waste her words. Her father left when she was 8. Her mother worked nights, which meant Clara grew up learning to handle herself. She became an observer, studying people, reading their faces, hearing the things they didn't say. It was her own kind of education. By the time she was 21, Clara worked at a small marketing firm in Denver. Her job? Data entry. It wasn't glamorous. It wasn't creative. It wasn't what she wanted to do forever. But it gave her a front row seat to something fascinating. Everyone at the firm loved to talk. Brainstorm meetings were loud and chaotic. Voices overlapping, ideas bouncing like pinballs. But when the noise died down, the whiteboard was filled with half-baked ideas no one had fully thought through. Clara noticed a pattern. In all that noise, the best opportunities slipped through the cracks. Numbers didn't match slogans. Campaigns went over budget. Deadlines were missed. And she realized something. If she wanted to matter here, she didn't need to talk more. She needed to make her silence count. At night, Clara stayed late. While everyone else rushed out for happy hour, she studied campaign analytics. She taught herself design software. She read books about consumer psychology. She took free online courses on branding. She didn't tell anyone what she was doing. She didn't post about it online. Her growth was private, like a seed pushing roots into the ground before it ever sees the sun. But quietly, she started to become the person who knew more than her job title suggested. She could see the flaws in a marketing pitch before it even hit the client. She could predict which ideas would flop before the money was spent. And still, she didn't speak. Not yet. One Monday morning, chaos hit the firm. A major client, one that made up nearly 40% of their revenue, called to say they were pulling out. The campaign they'd launched had tanked. Sales were down. The CEO was furious. An emergency meeting was called. The conference room buzzed with panic. People pointed fingers. Excuses flew like paper airplanes. Clara sat in the corner, her notebook open, quietly taking notes. The CEO slammed his hands on the table. Does anyone here have a solution? Silence. Except Clara's pen stopped moving. She looked up. Her voice was steady, low, but unshakable. I think I do. The room turned toward her like they just remembered she existed. She outlined a step-by-step plan. How the campaign's messaging missed the target audience. How the data from the first 2 weeks could still be leveraged. How they could pivot without losing face. She didn't sound desperate. She sounded certain. When she finished, the CEO didn't speak for a long moment. Then he said, "Do it." And just like that, the silent one became the one holding the steering wheel. Over the next month, Clara led the rebrand. She coordinated with the design team, rewrote copy, adjusted the ad spend, and personally analyzed the performance every day. By the end of the quarter, not only had the client stayed, their sales had increased by 23%. The CEO sent out a company-wide email. Sometimes the quietest people have the clearest vision. Clara saved this account. Her co-workers were stunned. They'd sat next to her for years and never realized she had this in her. For a moment, Clara thought about all the times she'd been overlooked, the meetings where she'd been invisible, the times people assumed she had nothing to add. She could have made a speech. She could have posted online with the caption, "Funny how they ignore you until they need you." But she didn't, because she knew the point wasn't to prove them wrong. The point was to become the kind of person who didn't need to. Here's the truth. Silence is not weakness. It's not a lack of ideas. It's not the absence of power. Silence can be the most strategic thing you do when you use it to learn, to prepare, to grow. The world laughs at the silent ones until the silent ones speak. And when they do, it's rarely to join the noise. It's to say something that changes the whole room. So if you've ever been dismissed because you don't talk enough, if people have overlooked you because you're not shouting your worth from the rooftops, remember this: you are not behind. You are building. Let them underestimate you. Let them laugh. Because one day, when you finally decide to speak, it won't be to ask for a seat at the table. It'll be to lead it. And when that day comes, you won't just have their attention. You'll have their respect. If this story lit a fire in you, if you've ever been the quiet one in the room, drop a comment below and share your experience. I read every single one. And if you want more stories that remind you of your own strength, hit subscribe and turn on notifications, because your quiet growth today will be the loudest thing they've ever seen tomorrow.